Have you ever gotten a paper back and seen a professor's comment of wordy, awkward, or simplify in the paper's margins? Do you ever get frustrated knowing what you want to say, but not being sure exactly how to say it? Do you wonder how to make your sentences stronger? If so, you've been wrestling with issues of style. Style is simply the way that we present our ideas to an audience. Just as your clothing style is seen in how you dress, your writing style is seen in how you dress your thoughts. But your writing style is so much more than simply revealing your personality. Your writing style affects how people receive or dismiss your ideas. Writing style can be difficult to discuss because readers, graders, and professors don't always agree on what constitutes great style. But everyone agrees that a clear and a persuasive style greatly influences readers. You may be wondering how style differs from grammar and mechanics. Grammar and mechanics focus on the rules of correct English. Style focuses on how to make writing more effective, graceful, and persuasive. So your writing may be grammatically sound and mechanically correct, but lack effective and engaging style. Let me give you an example. It is the case that Augustine wanted those who heard him preach to understand that the glory of God was a preeminent concern in his ministry of proclamation. Compare that sentence to, Augustine was captivated by God's glory and his sermons show it. Both sentences are true, but the second example conveys the same information in less than half of the words of the first example and in more expressive language. In your papers, not only do you have to have an original argument with well-researched, organized support, but your papers have to reveal that elusive something called style, the aspect of writing that focuses on craftsmanship. Here are 4 style elements you need to cultivate in your papers. First, use the appropriate voice. Your writing voice can be thought of as your mood or tone. Just as a violin or electric guitar will produce different moods in your listener, your writing voice can produce different reactions in the mind of your reader. The key is to adjust your voice to your audience. In academic writing, your voice is more formal than when you're writing an email or texting or sending some other kind of message. Still, your writing doesn't need to be cold and impersonal. Also, unless you're instructed to otherwise, you should write in the third person and avoid first and second person, which means avoiding pronouns like I, we, and you. In academic writing, do not use contractions such as don't and can't, and avoid using cliches such as in the nick of time or every cloud has a silver lining. Cliches are worn-out phrases in English and aren't understood by many cultures. In addition, they don't add to your paper's readability, so replace them with clear writing that says exactly what you mean. A second element of style is writing in the active voice rather than a passive voice. In active voice, the subject of the sentence performs the action. For example, the pastor delivered a powerful sermon. That's active voice. The pastor delivered the sermon. In passive voice, the subject is receiving the action. A powerful sermon was delivered by the pastor. Usually the active voice is preferred because it's more concise, more compelling, and less confusing. Which of these 2 versions do you prefer? For the world was so loved by God that his only begotten Son was given to the world. That's passive voice. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Active. Since clarity is an important goal of theological writing, you should use the active voice whenever possible. A third way to cultivate your style is to practice writing concisely. Often student papers are unnecessarily wordy. A common mistake is to introduce unnecessary phrases in your sentences such as, in my opinion, or it's true that. Those types of phrases should be deleted from your papers. Here's an example of a sentence that isn't concise. In my opinion, if a writer chooses to use many words in a sentence, then many of those words will be wasted and the sentence becomes less clear. Now let's take the same thought and make it more concise. The more words a sentence has, the less clear it becomes. In order to become more concise in your theological writing, read each sentence and ask yourself, could I say this more simply? If you can express your ideas in fewer words, do it. A fourth way to improve your writing style is to choose strong verbs. Often student writers rely on weak linking verbs such as am, is, are, was, or were. For example, instead of saying, Jesus is no longer dead, but is in heaven, you could replace the is verbs with stronger verbs. Jesus conquered death and ascended to heaven. In addition to using strong verbs, you should place verbs near the beginning of the sentence, close to the subject. For example, don't separate your verb from its subject like this. Luther, in an act of defiance toward the Roman Catholic Church, nailed the 95 Theses to the door. Instead, you should write, Luther nailed the 95 Theses to the door in an act of defiance toward the Roman Catholic Church. By placing the verb closer to the subject, the relationship between the verb and the subject is clearer. Now let's review these 4 style tips by editing the following sentences together. It's true that sharing the gospel isn't done by me and other Christians because we're scared out of our minds. First, let's use the appropriate voice by changing the contractions, removing the cliches, and rewriting the sentences in third person. Here it is. It is true that sharing the gospel is not done by many Christians because they are afraid. Second, let's change the verbs so that they have an active voice. It's true that many Christians do not share the gospel because they are afraid. Third, let's be more concise by removing unnecessary words and phrases. Many Christians do not share the gospel because they are afraid. And finally, let's use strong verbs and place them closer to the subject. Many Christians shudder over evangelism. Enhancing your writing style isn't as hard as it seems. If style is something you struggle with, start writing your paper earlier to give yourself more time for rewriting and editing. If you find yourself just trying to get a paper done without taking time to polish it, you've lost your chance to work on style. Also, consider taking your paper to a writing mentor in the Writing Center or to the Office of Student Success and ask a mentor there to specifically address style issues. For more specific help, pick up a copy of Style, Lessons in Clarity and Grace. Since your writing style greatly impacts how your audience will receive your ideas, it's worth devoting the time necessary to improve your style and bring clarity to your message. The world is in desperate need of men and women who can clearly communicate gospel truths.